Okay, so trigger wise, we have a crank trigger and we have a home signal. So on mine, I made a bracket that went under here and just made the sensors off that. So on that front cover there, you've got this screw hole here. I utilize that, and then what I do is I put a longer bolt or a stud in here, and I use that spacer to take up that space so that it sits dead flat. And I usually just screw in old nut, that, you know, an old bolt that I've sharpened the head on, and then you can hold the plate against it and tap it, and it'll give you your drilling points. I know I'm not the first person to do this because I learned it off someone else, but if you're trying to mark out where you want to drill holes, if you just cut down some bolts, sharpen the end, then you can put your piece up where you want it, tap it, and you get exactly where to drill your hole. And in those little things, keep them in a jar somewhere and you can use them again. Like I didn't, and just had to make some more. Good times. But between that hole there, a long stud here, with a spacer there, I've been able to mount mine. On mine, it's still on there. Unsure really of how long it's going to last, but yeah, it's done over 500k so far and doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So that's the mounting spot that I use. There's probably a million ways that you can do this, but this is what I did on my last one, and this is what I've done on this one as well. It takes a bit of time, yes, but I'll show you. Right, so trigger wise, sensors, I like these Cherry Hall Effect sensors. They're a GS100502 is a part number for them. I've got them on mine and they seem to work very, very well, and they're not really that expensive. So what I did was I started with a cardboard template as I normally do, worked out where I wanted it to be, tapped it, put it onto aluminium, tapped the holes and drilled them out, and then you end up with that. So that there is just the mounting plate that I use. So you can see it'll sit there like that. The holes that are drilled in it there are for the standoffs that I screw the sensors into. So that plate, then with some 10mm alloy, I work out how high I need it to be so that the sensors are dead smack in the middle of the trigger wheel. So the trigger wheel itself passes past the dead center of these, and then I make these. So these are 10mm. Drill a hole, I tap that to M12x1, which is the same as those, which means they can screw into there. I was going to try it on steel this time so that I can just weld them on to steel, but I asked a few mates, and because they're magnetic pickups and they're running off a steel trigger wheel, it's probably best to have the mount or bracket in aluminium and not steel in case you get some interference. And it might not be like straight away interference, it might be interference at a higher rev range and it'll just keep cutting out. And I've had that before, but it was actually a failed sensor, so I went with alloy. So like I say, 10mm alloy, I drill, I tap them to M12x1mm. I drilled through on one of these, that one there. They bolt there like that from the back. I drilled the holes and then drilled into these and tapped them to M4, and then I use the screws and Loctite to screw them from the back, screw the sensors through those, lock them in place to where they are, you know, within 0.5mm of a trigger wheel, and then that's kind of the sensor bracket made. And like I say, there's shitloads of ways you could do this, but this is how I did it on my last one. It has taken me probably 5 hours to make this lot, but it works on mine. It's going to work on this one, so I'll stop it here. I'll put it all together, put it on, and then you can see it in place. So just quickly, you can see that's kind of how they sit. One bracket, two sensors screwed on from the back. They will be Loctited on, the same as these will be Loctited in position. Right, so that's it in place. It's actually very, very strong. You know, it's not going anywhere, but they don't rattle, they don't come loose, and by the time you've Loctited these in place and put a feeler gauge in there and got them where you need them, you can see that the sensors will pass, the teeth will pass by the sensor pretty nicely. It's tucked about the way. You can modify a factory cover, cut off the bottom of it, and it covers it. But yeah, that's another one off the list. That's the triggers and sensors now. So you've got your crank trigger, which would run everything. It would absolutely run everything, but it would just be batch fired. So spark all at once, fuel all at once, all four. Having the home signal, and you could also do that using the EFI Dizzy if you wanted to, but like I've said before, I can't fit one underneath the manifold. So I use auxiliary shaft, which turns at the same speed, but it's got to be within a percentage of that one there when you're setting up on the ECU. But that gives you a home signal, which means now you can run sequential injection and direct spark, and hopefully try and make things more fuel efficient when you slap bigger turbos on there. So that's it. Trigger wheels and sensors all done. Ticked off the list. Thanks for watching. Again, any questions, just ask. Cheers.